He filled arenas. He owned Christmas. He outlived trends that swallowed entire careers. But the loudest part of his life was silent. He loved one woman for decades. She loved someone else. He never married. He never had children. He kept singing while carrying a bruise the tabloids couldn't photograph. Years later, cameras would still try. A helicopter circled. A raid aired live. The accusations collapsed, but the damage didn't. He said his own home felt contaminated. If you think you know Cliff Richard, you probably know the hits. You might even know the headlines. What you don't know is the long thread that ties the boy from Lucknow to the man who beat the system and kept the microphone anyway. Let's pull that thread. But to see where the echo starts, you have to start in the heat, not the fog. He was born Harry Roger Webb in a city humming with history and sirens. The world was on fire. The empire that raised his father was running out of road. When the family left, they didn't fly into comfort. They sailed into ration books, stiff windows, and a sky the color of dishwater. England was still healing. Their new life was smaller, meaner, and colder. For a kid who'd known warmth and space, it was a shock. A chip formed, not anger, not bitterness, something sharper, a vow. If the world wouldn't make room, he'd make his own. The lesson came early. No one will hand you a stage. No one will give you a spotlight. If you want the room to turn, make them hear you before they see you. And to do that, Harry Webb had to vanish. There's a certain magic to names. Some shut doors, some open them. A manager with radar for trends made a simple argument. If you want rock, sound like rock. Cliff, solid, British, carved into the map. And for the surname, a nod to the hurricane across the Atlantic, Little Richard, squeezed into a single crisp beat. Richard. Harry Webb was gone. Cliff. Richard arrived. The new name wasn't a mask, it was permission. Permission to turn the volume up. Permission to walk on without apologizing. Permission to be the sound Britain didn't have yet. Now all he needed was a song that didn't knock politely. He found it. It kicked the door so hard the hinges remembered. Move It wasn't tidy. It didn't wear a school tie. It snarled the way teenagers feel before they learn how to behave. The guitar sounded like it had been chewing wire. The rhythm punched like it had something to prove. Britain had imported rock and roll. Move It made one. Teenagers didn't just like it, they recognized themselves in it. Suddenly there was a British star who didn't need an American passport to sound dangerous. Crowds formed, security failed, reporters found new adjectives, mothers worried, fathers frowned, teenagers bought tickets. A country that liked its music polite discovered it liked a little trouble more. And trouble sells, especially when it can also smile. The next chapter wasn't louder, it was bigger. Living Doll slid across the airwaves and sat at number 1 like it owned a key to the building. If Move It had kicked the door, this one redecorated the house. The voice grew warmer. The face grew famous. Picture cues around cinemas, picture kids copying haircuts and parents arguing in kitchens. When Summer Holiday hit, the soundtrack didn't just climb. It camped on top of the album chart and refused to come down. Britain wasn't just listening. Britain was participating. It was humming at bus stops, singing in school halls, daydreaming in math class. Cliff became the kind of star you measure a weekend by. He wasn't only a poster, he was proof. Proof that the island had its own rhythm. Proof that a homegrown act could sell innocence on Monday and electricity on Friday. But the next turn wasn't about style. It was about the soul behind it. At the height of the 60s, when breaking rules was the rule, he said something most pop idols kept private. He said faith mattered to him. He didn't disappear into a pulpit. He didn't trade choruses for sermons. He kept making records. But the engine changed. The center steadied. The confidence stopped pretending. He didn't need to play a role he didn't own. He could be devout and still be chart-bound. He could be upright without being uptight. People argued about what it would do to his career. Some assumed the wave would drop him. The opposite happened. He learned how to last. Cool is a sprint. Clarity is a marathon. He chose the second. Still, even marathons have hills, and the next climb was steep, loud. By the mid-70s, fashions had shifted 3 times. Some of his peers were pinned to the past like butterflies. He wasn't. He found a new gear and a new story. A song about mystery and warning. A chorus that bit. Devil Woman slithered into US radio and bit hard. Top 10, millions of copies. Suddenly, the old teen idol looked thoroughly modern. He wasn't an artifact. He was a headline again. Then came the 80s and 90s. New writers, new textures, new hooks that felt expensive but never plastic. Single after single, season after season, he did the one thing pop culture pretends is easy and almost nobody achieves. He kept being current. The scoreboard turned into trivia night legend. Number ones across 5 decades. That's not hype, that's math. And when the industry tried to roll its eyes at a news, he was abroad when the news found him. He turned on the TV and saw his home on every channel. A helicopter hung overhead. A camera peered through the window of a life that had already been too public. Across the world, strangers watched officers walk through rooms where he should have felt safe. The allegation that sparked it all would dissolve. None of it would be proven. But that morning wasn't erasable. He said he couldn't sleep. He lost weight. He developed shingles. He felt like the walls had absorbed a stain. Then came a different kind of stage, a courtroom. He didn't want a sensational headline. He wanted clarity. A judge agreed that the broadcast raid had crossed a line. The ruling didn't rewind time. It didn't unring the helicopter's rotor. It did something else. It told the world in plain language that what happened wasn't entertainment. It was wrong. When you've been famous for that long, people think you're made of Teflon. Fame is not armor. Fame is a magnifying glass. He stood under it for 2 years and came out with the one victory that matters when gossip curdles into something cruel, his name back. And after all that, the most surprising thing was simple. He kept adding chapters. The scoreboard kept tilting in his favor long after common sense said it should stop. Another decade, another album near the top, a Christmas release that stormed the charts in a season crowded with younger names and bigger budgets, an orchestral project that took familiar songs and rehung them in gold frames. None of it felt like a museum tour. It felt like a craftsman polishing the same table until the grain looked new again. He joked about slowing down. Maybe the long tours would end, maybe the dates would thin, but even if the lights dim tomorrow, the numbers have already done their work. He didn't just survive eras, he accumulated them. 50s innocence, 60s mania, 70s reinvention, 80s polish, 90s defiance, 2000 resilience, 2010's vindication, 2020's victory laps. That's not a career, that's an institution. And under all of it, the quiet ache that made the loud parts honest. Every great biography has a private chapter the crowd can only guess at. His was a woman whose voice blended with his in a way that made fans hold their breath. Timing is the cruelest editor. She was promised elsewhere. Life moved, careers exploded. The two stayed friends, then co-stars, then legends. The affection never turned bitter. It just turned into history. He didn't marry. He didn't build the Ordinary Family album. Instead, he built something stranger, A life where holidays belong to millions of people who put his voice on while decorating a tree. It's easy to get cynical about that kind of romance. Don't. The ache matters. The songs sound warmer because of it. The patience, the steadiness, the way he keeps showing up even when the world misreads him, some of that comes from a heart that learned how to lose without becoming hard. And that's why the ending isn't really an ending.